Hello guys, it is Sam. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a video that I actually filmed a few months ago. I think in around May I posted it, and the reason to why I am making a part 2 of this video is because I wanted to talk about the mindset part. So if you don't know, I did make a video of how I lost 60 plus pounds in 3 months back in May, and I talked about mindset, but I didn't talk about it the way that I wanted to. If you didn't watch that video and you are interested, I will link it down below. But please keep in mind that in that video and in this video, I only did what works for me. What works for me may not work for you. And also, I'm not certified in anything that I'm talking about. But with that being said, I kind of wanted to share my story on how I trained my mindset to become so much better and really got from point A to point B. So with all that being said, let's dive into how I lost 60 pounds in 3 months by literally just changing my mindset. When I say that, of course, I did put in the work, but it really did start with mindset. So step 1, the number one thing you need to do when you are trying to change your mindset from negative to positive is recognize that there is a problem. I think that goes without saying, but when we don't recognize that something's wrong, we're not going to be understanding that something needs to be changed. It was really hard for me to be able to admit to myself that there was a problem and that something needed to be changed. But when I finally was able to, I did really start to see the positive repercussions of my actions. So with that being said, what I want to talk about when I say recognize it is allow yourself to really understand why there is such a negative mindset going on. Now, it could be because you are trying something and it's not working. For me, it was because I was stressed out. It could be for so many reasons, and whatever that reason is, it is completely okay. We have all been there before. We have all been in a state where we don't necessarily have the best mindset. And if you are someone who truthfully hasn't, I give you so much credit because that is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to change. And yes, it did benefit me in the end, but that doesn't mean going through it wasn't hard, and I want to put that out there. But point being is, and able to get where you want to be, and this could be relating to anything. It could be relating to fitness goals, it could be relating to work goals, literally anything you are trying to achieve. Your mindset needs to be recognized, and if it's not in a good state, then it won't allow you to get from point A from point B. You'll always hear that little voice in your head saying something negative, and you want to be able to change it into positive, which I'm going to explain now. What I realized is when I was able to admit to myself that there was a problem, I was able to start finding better alternatives into how to change my mindset from negative to positive. The first thing that I really allowed myself to do is focus on getting rid of self-doubt. Now, self-doubt is something that I feel like a lot of people go through, and it is very hard to get rid of, but the one thing that really helped me is understanding that fear is actually okay as long as you're not letting fear stop you. Everyone is going to be fearful of something, and the goal is actually not to be fearless. It's allowing fear to help you get from point A to point B. So yes, everyone has fear and everyone would love to not have it. So the goal is not to not have fear in the beginning. The goal is actually to acknowledge that you have certain fears, but then work to overcome it. In other words, to be strengthened by it and to work past it. And that's something that I always allowed myself to remind myself of, because the more and more during my weight loss journey that I sat there and kind of like really dove into every single one of my fears and every single one of my self-doubt habits that I was getting into while starting my weight loss journey really wasn't helping me. So when I wrote them down on paper and allowed myself to realize that it's okay to have these fears as long as it doesn't stop me, that's when I actually started to see the game change. The next thing I did was I took inspiration from photos. Personally, I went on Pinterest and I kind of looked at every single photo that I would want my future goal to look like. Now for me, I was trying to lose weight, so I looked at fitness photos, I looked at gym photos, I looked at healthy recipes I can make and everything like that. But depending on what type of goal that you're trying to get to, you would do that for that type of goal. What I did was I put these little photos into a private folder on Pinterest, and then I actually saved them to my phone, printed them out, and put them into a journal. Whenever I found myself having self-doubt or having that type of negative mindset, I literally just made myself look at that journal and kind of imagine myself in that time. So I imagined myself making a healthy recipe for myself and having fun while doing it because I love cooking. Or I imagined myself going to an Orange Theory class and feeling the endorphins every single time I ran. So it's not necessarily that I didn't have the self-doubt, it's just that I learned how to overcome them step by step and along the process of losing the weight. You are going to face these types of fears, but the more and more you learn to overcome them, or at least knock them out when they come, is really the only thing you can do, or at least the only thing I was able to do that really did help me get from point A to point B. The next thing, and this is probably one of the most important things, is to show up for yourself even in time of doubt. Show up for yourself even when your mind is telling you not to. I think it's safe to say that a lot of people experience the same thing that I do, and that is self-doubt can really play that voice in your head that will make you not want to do things. For example, for me, when I was losing the weight, every single day I would wake up and my mind would kind of just switch in the beginning and tell me that I couldn't do it or that I should stop. And I think that the number one thing that got me to where I needed to be and to where I wanted to be in a healthy state for my body and for myself, was knocking that voice out of my mind. I knew that I was in control of the thing that I was trying to achieve. So the more and more I allowed myself to listen to that negative thought, the more backward steps I would be taking. So every single time I did hear that voice, I actually got up, went to the gym, and just proved myself wrong. Throughout this whole process, we have to understand that you are going to be the person that's actually making this change, and you are your biggest competition, especially in the beginning. It's literally mind versus yourself, and at least for me, every single time I was listening to my mind, it just was not working because my mindset wasn't good. So every single time my mind did try to play that trick on me, I would literally do the opposite of what my mind was telling me to do. So for example, if my mind was telling me to not go to the gym that day because I didn't really need to go and because I was feeling lazy and I just didn't want to go, I would get up in that moment and go on a run or go to Orange Theory or whatever it may be. And don't get me wrong, it was hard. It wasn't easy, but any little type of movement that would allow me to realize that I proved myself wrong was something that was helping me. So I just continued to do it, even if it was for 10 minutes and then I worked out later in the day. Something that would just tell my mind, no, you're wrong and I'm gonna get from point A to point B. And this is how I started to actually change my mindset, because when I started proving myself wrong, then my mind slowly and slowly stopped popping up with those negative thoughts. Basically what I'm saying is, in time of doubt and in time that a negative thought pops up, replace that thought. For example, look at yourself in the mirror. If you're having a negative thought, let's say it's something like, I can't do this, replace that thought with, I can do this. I am going to prove myself wrong. The more and more we allow ourselves to have positive affirmations rather than negative ones, the more our minds will actually start to believe it. That is another thing I did. Positive affirmations, I literally said every single morning and every night before I went to bed, and it was just things that were allowing me to get to my goal. So for example, I told myself that I loved running. In the beginning, I did not like running at all. It was very hard for me to even run 2 steps, but every single night and every single morning, in the back of my head before I went to bed and when I woke up, I would just say, I love running. I really enjoy it. It makes me so happy. And honestly, it changed the game for me. To this day, running isn't my favorite thing, but I enjoy running and I look forward to running now. And from 4 months ago to now, that is a lot of progress. When you're allowing yourself to be aware of your thoughts and you're doing something to change them, your mind will eventually catch up with those positive affirmations and those positive thoughts you're changing that your mind is setting for you, and it'll actually get you from here to here. Next things next, we have self-discipline. Self-discipline is something I talked about in another one of my videos, which I will link down below for you guys, but self-discipline was one of my biggest friends in my weight loss journey and everything that I went through. So for me, I woke up and a lot of the time I didn't want to go to the gym. It was just something I knew I needed to implement into my routine in order to get where I wanted to be within a certain amount of time. And like I said in that video, I do have PCOS, so a lot of the things that I was doing were PCOS friendly and were things that I knew would allow me to get to where I needed to be while having PCOS. And working out and doing Orange Theory is what works for me and myself with having this. And again, I'm not certified in what I'm talking about. This is what works for me. And for me, I knew that that was something I needed to do. And in order to allow myself to get there, I needed to have so much self-discipline, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, it was really all about trying to change my mind because there was no way I was waking up and wanting to go to the gym. In the beginning, it was actually one of my worst enemies. I did not want to go at all. And I literally just kept pushing myself to go. Now, there's a difference between pushing yourself and listening to your body, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But knowing those two differences are very important. When there was days where I just didn't want to go because I was feeling lazy, those were the days I would push myself. When there was days where I couldn't go because my body was telling me that I needed to rest, I listened to my body. With that being said, self-discipline was actually one of my best friends, because even to this day, there are days I don't want to go to the gym because I just don't feel like going. And some days that is okay, but the more and more I allowed myself to fall into that pattern, the more I allowed myself to kind of take the easy way out, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I formed a very well deal of self-discipline, and it actually did really change the way my mindset worked. When I was allowing myself to take the easy way out and not not work towards my goal, I was actually going backwards within my mindset. And when I allowed myself to listen to myself and go to the gym and push myself to go to the gym, I actually felt more proud of myself and felt so good when my workout was over that my mindset was actually becoming more positive. And from month 1 to the end of month 3, I saw such a big difference in my self-discipline and a positive difference in my mindset. The next thing I want to talk about is failure. Failure is something that is going to happen during some time of life. And the number one thing to remember about that is that's normal and that's okay. Failure is actually something that will allow you to get from point A to point B, whether you believe it or not. Failure makes you stronger as long as you do not seep into that failure and just give up. What do I mean by that? Something comes up. You're going really strong in your goal and then something comes up. There's like a little knock in the road. If you allow yourself to just stop working towards your goal because something came up, then that is when failure is a bad thing. But if you take failure as a lesson and kind of change it to, hey, this happened, but what can I do to make this easier for myself so that this won't happen again and so that I can learn my lesson while actually making what happened turned into a good outcome. Failure is a learning lesson. Unless you listen to a negative mindset, failure is positive as long as you are allowing yourself to grow from it. So during my weight loss journey, there was a lot of times where I did fail. There would be times where I didn't go to the gym, or there would be times when I let self-discipline not really align with my goals. And what I did was, instead of just making those little failures that popped up make me stop, I just wrote them down. And the next day I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, okay, that was yesterday. I can't change what happened yesterday, but I can change what happens today. Obviously, there are some things that we are not in control of, but with goals, most of the time we are in control of those goals, depending on what they are. Take that lightly because it does depend on your goal, but for me and my goal, it was in my control. And in order to get from point A to point B, I knew that failure was going to happen, but as long as I didn't let that failure seep down to a level that I couldn't get out of, that I would actually overcome it. Next, I have listen to your body. I can't stress this enough, but listening to your body is something that is so important. And when you don't listen to your body, what I found myself doing was actually going back into that mindset rather than coming into a positive one. And that's because there was times when my body was telling me, you need a break. Just take a break, have a day to yourself, don't go to the gym, and allow your body to recover. When I wouldn't listen to that, I would find myself not wanting to do better the next day. But when I started to listen to my body, and when I started to understand the difference between self-discipline and when my body is telling me I need a break, that is when the game started to change, because when I listened to my body, I actually saw my goal come to me faster and my mindset was a lot better the next day. And the last thing I have is reward yourself. Mindset is not something that is going to be changed overnight, just like most of our goals are not something that is going to be changed overnight. It really does all start with mindset and believing in yourself. When you don't believe in yourself, there is a lot of negative mindsets that will come, but when you start to change that and recognize it and do things that will get you from point A to point B within your mindset, there's going to be a lot of rewards that come to you. When you start seeing those rewards, and when you are going through a very long-term goal, for me, I would say long-term goal is 6 months or more, it is important to reward yourself, whether it's with positive affirmations, maybe going shopping, a snack, whatever it may be. Rewarding yourself and being proud of yourself is so important, and for me, it actually allowed me to get further within my goal. So with that being said, that is how I changed my mindset, literally step by step, on how I lost 60 plus pounds in 3 months. In that video I posted, a lot of people were saying that it's not possible and stuff like that, and again, I do want to say that I do have PCOS. A lot of it was water weight, and a lot of it was because of the stress that was on my body while having PCOS. However, with that being said, I changed my mindset and I showed up for myself every single day. Of course, I put in the work. I went to the gym, I followed a certain diet, and I did certain things that I knew I needed to do for myself that would allow me to become healthy. But with that being said, it really did start with mindset, and in all my videos about weight loss and fitness, I do talk about how mindset is the #1 goal, and when you change your mindset, it really does change the game. Mindset is the #1 thing, in my opinion, everyone should change, because when you have a positive mindset, despite what you're trying to achieve, positivity and positive affirmations will allow you to change your mindset, and it's just something that really helped me, so I wanted to share it with all of you. Again, not certified in what I'm talking about. This is my story and what worked for me, so I just wanted to share it. With all that being said, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know and I will answer to the best of my ability. I hope this video was helpful. In the videos that I talk about mindset, I really didn't go deep into how I actually changed my mindset. I just talked about how changing your mindset is is something that could help you. So this is step by step on how I do it every single time, and I'm gonna try to stay in this mindset this time, and we'll see how that goes. But with that being said, thank you guys again for watching. I have really exciting videos coming up soon, so stay tuned. And I'm also hosting a giveaway, so go check that out.